Hello and welcome to the UK Surf Show. We are your hosts. I'm Pete.
And I'm Mitch, and on today's episode we chat with returning guest Yvette from Wave Wahines, and also hear from our other half, Steve, in the background, who wasn't on the show but done as much as he could to get on. He was bringing in background cakes.
Yeah, do you know what? Actually, Steve is one of the people that when we first started the podcast that I spoke to, and I was like, oh, can we get you on the show? And I've just never fucking got back to him, and I really should have, because he's a really good surfer and he's a really nice guy, and we should definitely, next time we're in Devon, we will get you on, Steve, because I did, promise you 5 years ago now. So
yeah, I mean, if there was ever a better opportunity, it was being in literally their house, and you said no.
Well, yeah, but I mean, this is, Yvette's returning. It's like four years on since she was last on the show, I think, of what was, well, very early days. I think, as she said in this, she says it's like episode 16, 15, 18, around there, somewhere like that. It's really early anyway. And we were still trying to work out what to do. And
you were still trying to work out how to do your introduction. So you wouldn't have at that point been far off of going, hello, sounding like some hospital radio show.
Hospital radio, yeah. But I mean, there's so much to go through in this episode, and it's an amazing episode, and we'll get straight on with it, and then we'll come back afterwards.
Yeah, so let's get into this one. And if you got barreled twice today for the first time ever in your life, raise your hands. Whoop, whoop. Let's go.
Right, so yeah, what we've normally do is get you to introduce yourself, but we'll start this one different by saying welcome back to the UK Surf Show, Yvette.
Thank you for having me back. It's very high tech this time round. This is pretty insane.
That's this guy.
My living room is a studio.
It makes. I said this to Pete the other day. I was like, I'm worried people will think we know what we're doing if we turn up with decent equipment. Don't be fooled by it.
It's pretty nuts. This is not what I was expecting.
Yeah. So I think since the last time we spoke to you remotely via I think it was in lockdown. Was it in lockdown or something? It was around that sort of time. It was,
yeah. We checked actually because we couldn't remember when it was, and it was like episode 17, like in 2020. So yeah. Long time ago.
Old, yeah.
So that must have been online, presumably.
Yeah, online on SoundCloud or something. I can't remember.
Zencastr, I think it was. Yeah, back then.
Did Pete seem like he knew what he was doing when he was setting that up? Because I've only done a couple of online ones, and it was a nightmare.
I knew exactly what I was doing.
Well, I recorded it, and it definitely worked. So he must have known.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. So I think there's been a lot of changes and things have happened in your life since last time we spoke to you, and with Wahines and CICs and all sorts of stuff. So I think we should start wherever you want, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, I guess there's been a lot to catch up on. I don't really know because I can't. 4 years. It's taken a long time, but I can't even remember what we were doing then. It just feels like such a long time ago. But I think in the past 4 years we've just been growing all the time, and more women. There's been more girls. We've been, we've run our Syrian surf program for 4 years now, every year. So yeah, it's just kind of the same, and I've had to get a real job in amongst that as well.
Devastating.
Yeah. So people that don't know, how did it start? How did Wahines start?
So it started 8 years ago now, and it was in light of my eldest child wanting to surf at that point. At that point, they obviously identified as Aaliyah. They were born female. Subsequently, they now identify as Aiden, as a trans man. So hence that's why I always use the word they, and just explain that really quickly, because that was the origins of the surf club. But now it's again, life has taken its changes, and that's probably a big change that I didn't mention in what's happened in the last 4 years. Oh yeah, I've gained a son. So yeah, that's changed some of the aspects of the club. Not saying that we're sort of, not a girls and women's club, because we very much are. But we've also enabled trans youth and non-binary youth to have sessions led by my son, which has been really nice for sort of him to sort of feel enabled to do that.
Yeah.
And you kind of touched on it anyway, but for people who aren't aware of Wave Wahines, what actually is it?
It is a surf club for women and girls to enable non-judgmental, non-competitive, fun, affordable access into surfing and ocean spaces.
We've spoken about this before. We speak about, barriers and perceived barriers. So presumably you've kind of had a build up to. I presume you've had some issues with surfing yourself to maybe notice these things, or is it through conversations?
I think it's been through conversation, because I grew up in Bristol, so I didn't grow up anywhere around surfing as a sport or as a lifestyle or any of those things apart from movies and TV, which was fairly limited to sort of Keanu Reeves. And other than that, surfing wasn't in my sphere of sport or knowledge or anything. I was very much, team sports, athletics.
Yeah, right.
My heroes were people like Tessa Sanderson and Fatima Whitbread and sort of that generation of athlete. So I had no perceptions of surfing, much less the perceptions of the barriers to it. It just wasn't something I consciously thought of. And then it wasn't till we moved here that then, my then Aaliyah wanted to surf. It was like, oh, I should probably try this. I did try it as a 30-year-old woman and gave it a go, and it was fun. But I was like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
It's not really, something that I think I'd probably progress at, because it was really expensive and you had to have all the kit. And I was like, oh God, that's a lot. And that was the same obviously then with, taking my children surfing. It's an expensive thing to go and do. And if you're not sure of the sea, it's a scary thing to do. So for me, I already had those barriers of not being a particularly strong swimmer, not knowing much about the sea, and then not having all the equipment. So I guess those are 3 barriers that I wasn't aware that I had until we started the surf club, which was started with me as a non-surfer. So it's pretty weird.
Yeah, and I guess, again, you touched on it, but, looking back, what do you think were perceived barriers as opposed to actual barriers? That if you're around it, at least you can kind of understand some things.
I think I probably just perceived it as quite a male sport, as quite a macho sport, because like I said, the only sort of the only knowledge I had of it was things like Point Break, which are very very sort of masculine.
And a great movie.
It is a great movie. It is a great movie, and whoever remade it, it's shocking. Don't watch it. But I think I just saw it as such a masculine space. So it was, even when I moved sort of down here, which was probably about 15 years ago now, very much it was mostly guys who surfed. I occasionally saw, a few women, but it was definitely a space that I was like, it's probably not going to be something for the girls to go and do. But that was very much a perceived barrier. And I think to go and do it, you'd need to just have a thicker skin and be a little bit braver. And I'm not sure I was that brave to go and then do it and want to. So so I all credit to the people that did have that bravery and want to go and do it, because I wouldn't say I was one of them until sort of the club started and I had that support network.
I think this is something like you said then that we've had a few times, the difference of the perceived and the actual barriers as well, and how much people put on themselves. I think not only women but men as well. Like when you want to try that new thing, it's scary of like, I want to try this, but where do I go? Do I join a club?
Especially when you're a bit older as well.
Yeah, it's like, I've got things now. I think, I'd love to do that. Like, where do I go to start that? How do you get into it? And you feel like if you're going to go to a new club or something like that, you feel all out of place. And I think that feels worse as you get older, doesn't it?
Definitely.
And do you get the same thing with women coming through and they're like, I thought it was going to be this, but it's completely different?
We did in the beginning. I think we did to start with, because we were so new and it was something that hadn't been in the area before. And I think we were one of only a couple of surf clubs UK-wide that were just for women and girls. So we were at the beginning of what is now an incredibly, thankfully, a very popular curve and is definitely becoming quite a normal thing in surf clubs to have like a women and girls surf section, which is fantastic. But we were at the beginning of that, so I don't think people knew what they were going to get and what it was going to be like. I think now it's much easier because we've got a reputation for who we are, for what we do, for this whole ethos of our club. So people come in and they know what they're going to get. They know it's all about fun. They know it's all, just about being safe in the ocean and just about having time to do something that's fun and enjoy yourself. And it's not about, the pressure of having to stand up or having to do a certain thing to have a successful lesson. It's just about what you get out of it.
Yeah. Do you think social media, for all the negativity that surrounds social media, do you think actually social media has helped alleviate some barriers for people in understanding? Because I think surfing has got so much more, I don't know if I want to say accessible, but it's certainly more within reach because people see it more and more. And I don't mean, Stab magazine and the likes just objectifying women for advertising. But I mean, you look online, or even all the feeds that come up for me are certainly surfing, and it's not all high performance. It's just regular people doing regular things. And I think there's definitely an element of, because it's so accessible to see, it makes it more within reach, more within grasp for people.
I think it's definitely helped people know that they don't have to fit a certain mold anymore. I mean, you still obviously have a massive, that cookie cutter sort of surfer image, and there's definitely that huge amount of pressure that social media and magazines and stuff do put on people, especially women when it comes to sort of sports like surfing. But I definitely think there's now this really great platform that is showcasing all different shapes, all different genders that are doing this particular sport. And that's enabled other people to go, oh, maybe I could give it a try. And that's certainly what we've seen, is that it's just, we've had people from, not from based locally that have just gone, no, we saw you on social media. So, we thought we were on holiday here. So we thought we'd come and find you. Yeah. And that probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for sort of the power of social media. So that's the positive.
Yeah, you're talking about it before, Pete, like, if you want to go try a new sport, if you want to go try 10-pin bowling, it's literally you turn up and you do the sport. You don't know the venue and stuff, but it's not overly complex. And it's a flippant example, but with surfing, you've got this whole other aspect. It's I need to wear a rubber suit, and now I need to go in the ocean somewhere I'm not familiar with. I don't know how it works. I don't know the spot. There's so much. It's definitely intimidating if you've never done it.
Yeah, I think it is a really intimidating sport to want to participate in. So I think anyone that reaches out and says they want to try it is already massively brave to even have that sort of thought and go, I'm actually going to give this a go. Because like you said, you're going to be put in, a natural rubber wetsuit. Thanks, Ulex. So you're going to be in one of those. So suddenly all the bits of you that you might feel really self-confident about, self-conscious about, or self-confident about, who knows? But everything's going to be on show. Everything's going to be highlighted. And that can be really, really daunting. And then you might think, I'm not a particularly strong swimmer. So then suddenly you're going to be put in the ocean. You're like, oh my God, this scary living thing could just take me away. And that's it's a really frightening thing. And you don't know who the other people in the session are. You don't know, are you going to get on? Are they going to judge you? Are they really young? Are they really fit? Are they, there's so many questions that must go through the participants' minds, and I know they go through my mind, and they've gone through my mind when we started of, should we be doing this? Should we even start this club? Because it was so new. I was like, are people going to want this? Are they going to need it? And it's just, I think everyone has those questions. Everyone has that self-doubt.
Yeah, I can't actually remember, looking back, and it's, 12 years ago I started surfing. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not that long. I can remember the high level things of, being a bit intimidated and just not knowing what I was doing and feeling like I was always in everyone's way. But I can't really remember them finer points and the things that I would probably, if I was able to tell myself or pass on to anyone else, because now obviously we know the power and the benefits that we can get out of just going for a surf or just being in the water.
Yeah.
But I can't quite remember what that felt like, which is quite a powerful thing to know and understand. But I guess if you're immersed in it quite a lot with new people, it's probably helpful to alleviate.
Yeah, it's really nice. And you do, we see women and girls that are, so nervous about coming, or that have had like really tough days, and the difference it makes in them. But you're always really aware of, I think you're just always really aware of what their barriers are and what is making them nervous on that particular day. Is it because, they find the waves particularly big today. So it's like, how do we adjust it so that they feel brave enough to go in, but not pushing them out of their comfort zone so far that it scares them, you know? So we're really always hyper aware of the conditions on the day, and is it going to be, you know, especially when we've got our girls club and quite a few of them are quite small, you know, we might make the decision that, you know, the women's session will run because they're older, but then we might say, actually, if it's low tide and it's Croyd, we might go, oh, do you know what, let's maybe cancel today just because we don't want to put them off. We want them to have a really good experience as well. So that needs to be taken into account.
At least it's a mellow break to learn on.
I was going to say, the amount of the last few days, the amount of excuses we've found between us to not surf Croyd has been ridiculous. The idea that you go down there for the first session.
That's been so funny. We've had sort of, I think there was one of our women's lunchtime sessions. It was on a low tide, and I remember a few of them turned up and they were like, all of our husbands have gone, oh, it's low tide though, it's Croyd, are you sure you want to go? And they were like, yeah. And they all smashed it. And I was like, so now you can go home and tell your husband that you surfed low tide Croyd, survived, and absolutely thrived.
Well,
and they were just like, oh my God, maybe you need to come to our lunchtime ladies session.
I've surfed low tide Croyd once, and I literally dragged myself out and went, I'm never going in there again. It's terrifying.
And I think that's really good, is because it gives the women and girls such confidence to know that they're surfing, you know, quite a famous break and quite notorious, you know, on its tide, and you know, and depending on the swell, it is quite a notorious break. And to be able to do that at the ages that we have, I mean, you know, they should be really proud of themselves.
Absolutely.
Well, we've said, like, I think it's probably one of the it can be one of the heaviest breaks in the UK. Yeah. It's just the power of it. It's just, like, from where we are, I expect when it's big, you can hear it from the front garden.
We can hear the waves here.
How big's the club now?
Oh my goodness, I was sat trying to work out, and I think this year alone, so we have surfed with we've had over like 300 surf sessions this year. So we've been surfing with over maybe like 400 or 500 women and girls throughout the year, and it's nuts. You know, it really is nuts.
And what's the biggest surprise? I don't know how to word it. Is there, like, have you had like proud mum moments sort of thing when you see someone that's come and started with you, and now you see them out there on their own?
Every time they get back out the water at Croyd,
yeah.
proud to me. Yes.
All the time. I always have proud mum moments. I'm such a cheerleader for all of them, on the beach, off the beach, in their lives. It's really lovely. Obviously, seeing our first little cohort of girls from back in 8 years ago. So those girls are now, and obviously my son, they're all 21. So they're either at uni, or a couple of them are lifeguards, surf coaches, and we sort of funded some of their surf coaching, and you see them now as these grown women and men, and you're like, oh my goodness, how did that happen? But then you look at sort of our younger kids that are coming through, and you watch them just grow and grow and grow, and then they transition up into secondary school and they become like different, and you just watch them growing all the time. Right. And it's a really lovely thing to sit and just watch as just an outsider, just watch them hanging out together when they don't see each other at school, and it's an amazing thing to see. And I think, I've had messages from one of our girls who is now 17, and she sort of wants to come back and do some coaching with us and start volunteering. And so it's really nice to kind of see girls that have come through the club, since they were sort of 10, and now they want to come back and do volunteering. And we've had some of our older girls volunteer with our Syrian surf club, because that's, some of the girls are really little there. And it's been really nice to kind of enable that. And for me, it's just, and I get it all the time, and I get their mums and dads messaging me saying how proud they are. And it just makes me feel so emotional that, you've had a certain level of impact in their actual real life, not just like that 2 hours on a beach.
Oh, that's beautiful. How does the club operate? Is it kind of a club for life, or is it like a 6-week program for different people, or is it
Club for Life? It's when we do programs, it's only been the Syrian surf program we've done, it's been the trans and non-binary, and it's been our surf therapy programs that we ran for I think 3 years with women fleeing domestic abuse, with the Women's Refuge. So those are our programs that are funded, and they sort of operate in the normal kind of, you have a start point, you have an end point, you have X amount of sessions in them. But the idea is with those, there's somewhere for the women and the girls to progress to if they want to. Yeah. So they can come to our regular club sessions and it's set up for that, is the idea. But I think for the first year ever, we really wanted to evidence the importance of the club.
Right.
Because, I mean, you guys must know, obviously, because I know your work with Lost Shore and stuff, is you do these like evaluations of stuff that's funded, and you kind of go, oh, how are you feeling before? How are you feeling afterwards? And, at the end, it's set up for 6 weeks for a reason.
Yeah.
I think it's nice protocols are like that is your minimum behavior change sort of window, so you kind of know you're going to get a certain result, and so that's why you set it as a 6-week program. And I just had this nagging feeling internally that I was just like, there's got to be more than this 6-week box of here's the benefit and this is why. And also I'm really aware that our girls come every week. I want to make sure that they're getting rewarded and they're getting funded, or they're getting something, for being with us and supporting us the way they do. And so for this year, the first time ever, we've evaluated our entire year of club through our women's, through our girls. So we've done evaluation sheets every single session. And we've done that specifically to highlight the importance of long-term behaviour change and long-term support, not just this really small window. We want to evidence the fact that a club that runs every week is so important to maintain and to keep going. It's not just always about, the really glamorous and great short bursts of help. I mean, that's not to sort of take anything away from them, because they're absolutely needed and very, very necessary in what they do. And we probably still will run those. But equally, I think sometimes the clubs that are there all the time, they almost get forgotten because they're just like this safety net. But actually we have kids that, are suffering from eating disorders, or that have issues at home, or that are being bullied at school, or that have long-term health conditions. And just because they're not in a special prescribed box of a session, it doesn't take away from what they achieve, and it doesn't take away from the value that the club brings to their life. So we're sort of evaluating those results at the moment. So Jamie Marshall, if you're listening, PhD, I'm coming for you.
Well, I was gonna bring Jamie up. Actually, we were speaking about Jamie before, and for those of you aren't aware of Jamie Marshall, Dr. Jamie Marshall, if you've listened to the episode we had Andy Haddon on, founder of Lost Shore, you'll know that Andy's sort of vision for Lost Shore was that, if it all fell apart, he wanted to leave something behind. And in his first investment, he spent half of that was basically Dr. Jamie Marshall, the good doctor, on a world's first surf
what an investment
therapy
he
PhD,
is
right?
Just tremendous.
And what is it you've done with Jamie?
He's been so supportive, because I first met Jamie when I presented the findings of our surf therapy for trauma, which was working with women fleeing domestic abuse and working with refugees. So that was 4 years ago, maybe. I can't remember now, but it was in Cornwall. And that was the first time I met him, and we spoke loads then, and we've been in contact since. And I think he's helped oversee things. He's just been a constant source of support and someone I can go to. And obviously, actually, I did mention that we'd be doing this year-long evaluation to him, and said, do you mind getting an Excel spreadsheet at some point, and with all sorts of tick boxes?
He loves a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I thought so, whereas I don't. So I need someone to kind of, to look at that information. So yeah, he is phenomenal. And I think what he's giving back to the surf community is it's such a pay it forward moment. Someone's invested in him, he's investing it back around into the community. And I think, that's where clubs like ours really benefit. And, you know, because we can't afford to do that stuff. We don't
Yeah.
have the knowledge base to get that information. Whereas someone who's willing to assist, like him and like Rebecca Olive, who's done, you know, who's worked with us before. Again, same thing, you know, it's people like that within the community that enable clubs like us to function and to provide the evidence that we really want to show and show it to the world, but we don't have the financial means to do so.
How did the progression go from then a women and girls club to women's refuge and refugees, and how did that come into it? Or was that literally, as you just were saying then, with that study?
No, it was life. It was just life and things that I care about, things that matter to me. You know, the club was never created to be a particular thing. It was just there to provide a resource at the time that was needed, and that obviously has maintained and is still needed, clearly, because we're still here. But there were never any parameters of what we were going to do and what we were meant to achieve. That it was never about that. And I think then, because obviously of my own heritage and my own sort of barriers to being in certain spaces, just because there's not many sort of faces that are representative of different identities, it always made me think, God, you know, what must it feel like for other communities to kind of integrate into surfing? And so I'd start reading and learning on that, and then, you know, we started looking at actually, can we engage more diverse ethnic communities into surfing? And we connected with the Pickwell Foundation, who sort of run community sponsors, and I had no idea there was such a huge Syrian resettled community here sort of those years ago, and that's sort of where that came from. And it was just I think it's just the humanity of knowing what these people have not even knowing, just trying to imagine what these people have gone through to get their families to safety. And I'm privileged enough to be in a safe environment, to have my family around me and not to need to take those risks. I was just like, I really want to be able to do something, but all I can do is offer a surf session. And I was like, that feels really, really little. Yeah. But then when we saw the girls play, and we'd looked at obviously what the cultural barriers and the language barriers, and we'd taken all that into account. But watching them play in the sea, and then watching the mums cry at watching them play, suddenly made me realise that is what I've given them, and that is really valuable. And it was, you know, a similar thing with the with the women in refuge. You know, I spoke to the refuge and said, you know, can I come in and talk? I've got this proposal for you. And they were just like, okay, and looked at me like I was slightly mad. And I just said, look, I've been learning about this stuff because I know it's valid. And I'd sought out Groundswell Community Project, and I'd done sort of online training with them and looked at all the, you know, how it all works together and how you set the programs. And they said, okay, well, you know, I'm sure there might be some women who want to try it. And they did. And then at the end of the program, you know, we had women saying that we're saving lives and that we've given them their voice back. And that was just through my own experiences with domestic abuse, with, you know, an ex-partner. And I think my life has really shaped the people I want to engage with and the people I want to enable and empower and uplift. So it's never been this like strict thing. It very much takes me where life sort of takes me and where I feel my passions lie and my drivers lie. And obviously with, you know, then with Aidan, it kind of took us in a completely different direction for a few sessions. So it's very much an organic thing, and we react to what's around us.
Organic's literally what I was thinking. You're obviously naturally invested in what you're doing, and I know it's progressed to where it is now, and like you say, you probably didn't really know where it was going, and it's kind of naturally fallen into place. But there's a huge elephant in the room here that this is where you've got to, and you thought, I'm going to set up a surf club. And I think you said at the time you'd never surfed and you didn't know anything about surfing.
I'd
so
surfed
there
once.
must be a huge step there, and I know where I'm going. But
saying like, oh yeah, I'm afraid to join a club or something like that because I don't know how to start. Actually, I don't know anything about it. I'll just start one myself.
I won't join a surf club. I'll make one.
I'm going to create it. Yeah. That's it. And that's the irony, of course, about all of this is I am or was a non-surfer. I'm going to say was, because I I still wouldn't class myself as a surfer, but I really enjoy being on a board, and I definitely stand up more than I ever have done. So there's photographic evidence. So I'm going to be like, yes, I can do it.
I've got one as well that proves that I can stand.
But yeah, I'm still very much a novice, still very much in the whitewater, but I think that's always been part of it. And I've spoken to like Steve, my husband, about this at great lengths. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so like not legitimate to be in this space and talking about this shit because I don't do it. But when I do, I'm crap at it. And he was just like, but that's actually part of what makes it really special and really unique, is you're not selling yourself as a surfer. You're not selling yourself as this thing. You're just creating something because it needed to be here. And now you're immersed in it, like literally. And you're learning as everyone else learns. And it makes the women who come to our club that have been nervous to start surfing or come back to surfing after children, it makes them feel, oh my God, if she's even started the club as a non-surfer, I can definitely go to it as one, because I'll attend the lessons as a sort of student. You know, I'll be there being coached by the coaches, because we have, you know, amazing coaches. I'm not a surf coach. I'm a personal trainer and a really, really good coach, and know all the biomechanics of how it works. So I can point out what you're doing wrong on a board, but I can't do it myself, you know, but I'll participate in the lessons the same as them. And I think that's really grounding for them. It's really grounding for me. It really reminds me that I'm learning all the time. And it is like this hilarious irony of why we exist and how we came to be.
I heard that you started it up as a way to get free surf lessons. So.
If only that were true.
Get coaches, teach me while you're doing it. We're all set.
See, I think that's maybe where we probably kind of cross over together, all of us. I mean, the show, kind of what I do myself as well, is that any of us are pretending to be anything. We're not. We're not trying to be some WSL podcast that's like, you know, high level surfing. That we are distinctly average surfers. You know, lose a board on a duck dive sort of thing. And if I think this would lose credibility what we do if we were landing airs and even trying to do them to start out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people miss that, and I don't know. Perhaps I'm told often I'm too honest about my own ability, or maybe I'm too open, whatever. But I think that's relatable.
I think it makes
like
it makes you massively relatable, because you don't, you know, I mean, yeah, it's really nice to have people who are at this certain level to aspire to or look up to, or to just go, oh my God, that is insane. Of course, that's, you know, everybody needs those elite people, and especially athletes. I wouldn't say elite people, we don't fucking need those, but we need elite athletes.
Go down that line.
But, you know, we need those elite athletes, because there has to be like a progression for all sporting types. But that's not the majority, and that's such a small percentage of anyone who participates in sport to get to that upper echelon. But we all need people who are relatable. We all need people who we can go, oh my God, I totally get that feeling, or yeah, I've been as crap as that too, and oh my God, that's where I am. And you know, and because you buoy each other up, and it's just so lovely to have that. And I think I think there's a growing movement of people who just want to be learning and be learning from their peers, rather than being sort of talked down to and taught in that way. I think it's massively relatable.
But for clarity, I'd drop it all to do an air in a heartbeat. Show's gone, this is done, I'm doing airs all day long.
I'll tell you what though,
I'd settle for just standing up 80% of the time.
we were like that, what you were just saying, in all seriousness. We were out yesterday, it was 4 of us out yesterday, and so it was an amazing session, but there was just so much stoke in the water, wasn't there? There was just like, you know, like all trying to go for the same waves and just laughing.
Party waves.
Yeah, it was.
But you were surfing with Eric, weren't you?
Honestly, Eric Davies, Jack Besant and Pete, they could not believe they were sharing the lineup with me.
You're such an idiot. Honestly,
oh my word.
He said that to them as well. He's like, oh, surfing with like surfing royalty and legends here, and they went, oh, you don't need to say that. He said, no, me, I mean.
Oh, wow.
But you know, I said to him, the thing is, there's someone out there that thinks he's serious all the time about
there
this
will
sort
be
of
someone
stuff.
going,
And like,
I almost
so
like that.
rude.
People
Would
think
like
I'm
it even
serious
better.
saying that. It's even better.
No, I mean, we were surfing with them, and the amount of like fun we were having, and even they were saying it's just great to watch us just laughing continuously, because I think 90% of the time we spent either ripping each other or laughing at each other in the water. And I think people who surf with friends and groups, they get that, because it's about, you know, if he got hurt, I'd laugh, and then I'd see if he was all right. But you know, it's that laughing at, like, he tried to duck dive a longboard, and
Never tried that before.
He just did a press up on a longboard, basically. Got smacked in the face by the wave. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. But that thing of, like, you know, so that group thing, I think even with other sports I've tried and done, you don't get that same group mentality. As it's like we've said this week, you've got that other element of the ocean as well, which is something you've got no control over with, and it's going to throw you something every now and then where your groups are, like, you know, you do lessons at Croyd, you obviously every now and then you get a clean-up set that comes through and just wipes everyone out, and it's like on your own it's terrifying. In a group it's hilarious.
It really is.
Like, as if you were to compare it to football, it's like, you know, the only time really people come together was when their team scored a goal.
Yeah.
And that's such a harmonious moment. But the whole session's like that. Imagine being able to have that for an hour, 2 hours.
It's amazing. I mean, I think it's so much fun. And yeah, I'm very envious that you were surfing with Eric yesterday and Jack. They are just like, I mean, Eric's just an icon.
He's a legend.
You know what?
Yeah, we can't wait because it's now December, which means he's going to get his elf costume out.
Oh my God.
We love this.
This
is what my kids love. They're like, oh my God, it's elf. Woohoo!
He had I was putting the board in the back of my van. So I'm in the van, the back doors are open, and Pete was pushing the board into the bag from the back. And he came over to the back of the van and he just pulled out like a recyclable carrier bag, and it was Elf on it.
Yeah.
He just went beside him, and I was like, oh my God, like, it's so similar. Like,
it's honestly, he does. He does walk around Braunton at Christmas with his elf suit, and it is like iconic.
He's honestly such a guy, and like he gave me one piece of advice out at Saunton yesterday.
Stop surfing.
Yeah, that was it. Just get off my wave. It's like, no, give me one piece of advice at Saunton, and it's something I never thought about, and it's so simple, and it's just changed everything I think about surfing there now. And I'm just like,
do tell.
Not on this.
You know, he's not
going
to say it.
I'll tell you afterwards, and you probably go, yeah, well, that's obvious. Everyone knows that. But it was just something that is like, and I was like, oh well, that's.
I'm intrigued. Really right, everyone. That is a wrap.
So let's talk about your own surfing. Like you said, you know, you hadn't been surfing before. So how them sort of first few sessions? How did you find it?
Really, really hilarious. Yeah, really hilarious. I've got a picture of my first ever surf lesson as 30. Steve, do you want to bring it in? It's just up on my desk. Sorry. Because I keep it by my desk to remind me of like that time as a 30-year-old. And I'm just smiling the whole time. And the photo I don't have is the one that they caught of me wiping out, which I was still massive smile on my face.
Yeah.
And through those proper lessons, he's actually got it.
This is
fed and everything. Right, I'll keep these over this side.
Yeah, that is actually me.
Look at that.
That's the money shot.
Stoke. Let me get that on here. I love a swelly board as well. There we go. That should focus. But if not, I'll overlay it. Probably not. Oop. There's so much Stoke here.
Yeah, and that was literally my first ever experience of surfing, and it's been like that ever since. You know, I've tried it. I now surf quite, you know, I surf with the club, obviously. I surf as part of the lessons. Yeah. But I surf with my girlfriends, you know. We quite often will get together now rather than, you know, I don't drink. So whereas it would have been, yeah, let's go for a drink, let's do this. I'm now like, oh yeah, should we go for a surf or go for a belly board or a body board, you know, because I've got wooden belly boards and stuff. So we just spend all the time playing in the sea. And it's just such a lovely thing. And I still find it as hilarious as those first few sessions because I spend most of my time falling off. And luckily I find that amusing. And
you should.
Oh, it's just great. You know, there's nothing better because, you know, I remember sort of sometimes like Steve's come home and gone, oh God, that was a really frustrating session. And I'm just like, how lucky you got to go in. How nice is that? Yeah. And so, you know, he always comes home really oh, it was really good, it was really nice, and you know, so and so was there, and then I'm like, yeah, because we're so lucky, we are so lucky, and I don't ever want to take that for granted and ever come out of the sea and be frustrated, because then I'm like, hang on, something's really wrong with that picture.
Do you get that as well? Like, I know you said like Steve's taken you out into like Saunton and you've been out the back there, and that, I know you said you've been playing on just the whitewater, but when you've been out with him, have you ever, like, you see him surf and you're just like, what? Because I've seen him surf, and I know you can probably still hear me, and he's bloody good as well.
He's all right.
Cheers.
Yeah, he is very good. He is. But honestly, because when we surf together, when we go surfing together, I'm in the whitewater and he's out back. He's generally with me because I feel more confident and more comfortable, like walking down the beach for someone else. I don't want to walk on my own.
Yeah.
Now I'm more confident that I will actually do that on my own now, which is, you know, yay me. But then he'll get in the water and I'll catch a couple of waves with him there. And then I'm like, okay, you can go now. And then I don't tend to look for him, because I usually can't tell if it's sunny. But if it's cloudy, I can usually tell, because he's got quite a distinct stance, so you can usually tell which one is him, and the way he falls off is absolutely always the same. So you know his dismount is spectacular.
You have to have a dismount.
Yeah, he's definitely got like a tried and tested dismount that is totally recognizable. But
the dismount, it would be my only scoring manoeuvre.
Yeah,
it's my only
absolutely. You got to have 10 for that dismount. But yeah, so I don't actually look when he's surfing when I'm on the inside. But then when we went out back together, I did actually sort of, I obviously saw him surf, and it was like, it's really incredible to watch somebody surf really well. And, and we see it at Croyd, we see it at Saunton. Whenever I'm in the water, I think you can get a lot from watching people, and you do, I watch them and I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And some of our kids in the lessons, they watch it and they're like, wow. Like, I think we've got pictures of some of the girls in the whitewater, and then I've got a funny feeling it might have been Bo Betteridge, like a massive top turn in the background, and you can see the girls turned around and looking at him, and and you can just see that glint in their eye of like, one day that's me.
So tell us about your first experience of being out the back then.
It was my second, was with Steve. My first one was with Aidan, and that was terrifying. And that was also at Croyd. And even he felt really bad afterwards.
All right.
Because he took me out and and he was just like, oh, Mum, try this. And so there's me paddling, and I couldn't catch a wave. And so he was just like, I'll help you. It's fine. And I was like, okay, I trust you. Stupid mistake. And the next minute he pushes me and like launches me down the face of this wave. And he said to me afterwards, and I didn't sort of fall off. I just literally was clinging on for dear life. And finally, got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm going straight now. I can try and get up. And I did, but then I turned around and sort of he came flying in after, and he was like, are you all right? I was like, yeah, I'm okay. And he said, all I heard was your scream and just saw your legs disappear. And he was like, I suddenly felt really bad. And I was like, so you should. So that was my first experience. And then when Steve took me out at Saunton, it was probably my first experience of paddling out in the rip. Okay. So I'd never used that before. I've only ever gone out the back when it's been like, you can walk there. That's fine. I can do that. So paddling out in the rip was an experience, and I was really scared, really, really scared. So he stayed sort of, just in front of me so I could follow him, take the path that he was taking. And we got out back, and I was just like, I felt like my heart was going to jump out of my wetsuit. I was just like, oh my God. Okay, I'm here. I'm just going to sit here. And he was just like, you can't just sit there. We've just got to move now. There's a set coming. I'm like, oh God, I can't. And I'm just like, oh my God, my arms are going to fall off. I'm here. I'm actually going to die. What have you done to me? Is this your way of getting out of our marriage? And it was really scary. And then I was like, what am I doing? I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm fine. There's like, another one of our friends was out, and I was just like, why am I getting so stressed? But honestly, the panic was so real that it just was like, okay, I need to do this more because I need to get more used to it. I get that. But it was also just a moment of going, oh no, I'm really proud of myself for doing this. And then I tried to catch a wave, didn't catch it. Then I tried to catch another one, caught it. Again, hung on for dear life, but didn't scream this time. So I was quite happy. Progress. And did stand up. And I was like, but then I couldn't get back out. But I tried to get back out. And I think for me, mentally, I was just like, the fact that I tried and I was on my own and I was getting smashed. I know, okay, everyone, it's Staunton. I wasn't really getting smashed. But in my head, I was getting smashed.
I tell you, so from watching Eric yesterday, one thing I did notice, no matter what wave he got how far in, he'd always just go back to the rip.
Oh, yeah.
And there's something in that of like, you've got that much experience, you're probably going to get twice as much waves just by doing that little bit
Just
of
by
extra
doing
going
that
back
walk.
to it.
Do you know what though? And Steve's probably going to disagree with me from the kitchen, but the mic won't pick him up. So for everyone listening, Steve agreed with me. He doesn't know what I'm going to say. But I always think, and this is just my own guess how my own head works. I completely understand why anyone would use a rip to get out somewhere. It's a lot easier, quicker. The theory is that it probably won't break the same, or if at all. But for me, I prefer to paddle out shortest route possible, straight out the middle, and if I have to get smashed, I get smashed. But it tells me something in that, and if I can't get out back, I shouldn't be out back. So I kind of, it's not that I avoid rips. It's just for me, I'm trying to save the paddle. And I'll just go shortest route possible.
But also it is that mentality of like, you're always told to avoid the rip because it's dangerous, when
you don't know for sure. But when you know the spot, you know the rip, you know where it goes.
Yeah.
I think you look at it completely wrong.
Why?
See, I think the energy you use paddling through those waves and getting smashed, if you just went into the rip, that prolongs your surf like twice as long.
If you look at yesterday,
is that right, Steve?
No, Steve's agreeing from distance for everyone. But if you look at, I was taking rights at Saunton yesterday.
Yeah.
The time it would take me, and they were long rights as well. The time it would take me to get all the way back round, because I'd have to walk back the beach first. I'd have to walk the full distance of the beach and then get in the rip, as opposed to just paddling back out on a log, which was effortless anyway. So
is that how you felt yesterday?
Bigger,
effortless, was it?
If it was bigger.
Listen to me.
Was this true?
My shoulders are hurting.
That's just because
that's all that paddling out.
Pure distance. That's the only reason.
It is long, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was going to go back to your chat about watching, like really good surfers out the back. Obviously, surfing's such an aspirational sport, and it's amazing seeing people surf well, like you were saying. But I think I can only watch people surf well in real life for about 5 minutes before, because I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Then I'm like, I need to go get in. I can't watch people do what I want to go and attempt to do badly. I just need to go and do it. So it's a funny one, that.
Yeah.
But it's so important to see that, because for me that is the progression. Seeing people do things not even well, but just better than you can. Like,
definitely.
I'd love to get to that,
Oh yeah, and I watch a lot of longboarding because I just prefer that. I think it just looks much nicer. And I'd love to be able to like longboard properly. That's my dream, is I want to be able to longboard and cross step, and it's just such a beautiful like way of surfing. I'm not about like all power and shortboarding. That is definitely not me, and I'm totally happy with that. But oh gosh, the grace of longboarding is just absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
How often do you get in for a surf?
It's winter, so it's very cold, so not very often. I last went in probably with Steve, which was a couple of weeks ago. So it just really depends, because I am a fair weather surfer. I don't want to go in when it's really cold. I don't like the thought of getting in and out of my wetsuit when it's wet. But I did have 3 surfs on the trot that particular couple of weeks ago.
Nice.
All of them with our middle one, Neve, as well. So that was really lovely. So I was just like, yes, okay, let's go in. Yeah.
So the younger ones all surfing now as well?
Yeah. The
I say younger
6-year-old.
They've got to be about 23 themselves now after the last time I spoke to you.
No, well, the oldest one's 21, and then Juno and Neve are 6 and 11. So they both surf with us. Neve doesn't surf with the club, but Juno does. Because normally our club was like always 8 and above. And then we had a couple of 7-year-olds. And then it was like, okay, the under 8s can come with a parent. And then obviously Juno was just like, well, I'm coming from 5. So it was like, okay, don't really know what to do with all this.
Yeah.
But quite a lot of her friends come with us too. And so they all come in with their parents. And we've now got this little this little group called the Teeny Wahines, so
Nice.
which is really sweet, and I just get to use that term all the time now, and so that's really cute. But it's been really nice because she loves it, and just letting her just play in the sea, and there's no pressure on them to kind of stay for the whole lesson. You know, if they decide they're too cold or too tired or too anything, then you know they can go with their parent and they can go home, and because they've got their parents with them, it takes the pressure off the coaches, so they can concentrate on coaching without worrying, you know, that there's like 4 6-year-olds in the water, you know, because that would obviously be quite stressful otherwise.
Are you, as a family, for yourself, are you at the stage of when you do family holidays where you can only look at surf destinations, or are you kind of just like, no, I want to go on holiday and not have surfing?
I think the reality of that would be, we got married earlier this year, so we got married in May, and our honeymoon was France and Spain, all based around where can we go that's nice family friendly surf breaks, but equally that are really good for Steve and his surfing, but also enables me to take a board and at my level, and for the kids to have their belly boards and body boards too. So yes, we are at that. We are that family that are like, yeah, we want to be able to get in the sea, you know.
It becomes problematic when your other half doesn't surf at all, and I don't know, she wants to go to Egypt, and I'm like, what about Biarritz?
Yeah, I can see how that could be a problem.
We actually, last year we were wanting to go away somewhere, and she was like, I don't want it to be a surf day. I just want us to go away and just have a holiday. I was like, right, okay. And it was really funny. She started naming all these places which she didn't realise. She was like, what about Morocco? And I was like, trying not to say anything. It's like, oh yeah, they have no surf there. Let's go there.
Yeah, Morocco sounds
And
good.
then she was like, maybe not Morocco. How about Lanzarote? And I was like, oh.
Oh my goodness.
So you're doing this on purpose.
That's quite funny. And where did you end up going?
Actually, we ended up going to Portugal. Which is perfect.
Did you just happen to end up in Ericeira?
Yeah. But I was forced into it, so I was like, I didn't know you could surf here. So had a board in the van.
That's hilarious.
I wanted to go back to something from earlier, and you were saying about the women's refuge and stuff and the statistics. So what is it statistically where you said how much it helps people? Because I don't know anything about that side. I don't know anything about a lot, of you've probably gathered throughout the the years of talking to me, but yeah, what statistically and how does that help?
What, the statistics? How does it
no,
help?
not the statistics. So statistically, what is it, the like improvements, benefits, and how they? Is the word change? How they? I'm trying to word it.
Yeah,
badly,
I think it's. I mean, for that particular, I mean, obviously each cohort was different, and we did different ones, but 100% of them had benefit from it. So it just varying degrees of what the benefit was, to be honest, but they all found positive response to doing the courses. So that's the difference, but it just depends on what we were doing and how long the course was running. But I think the fact that everybody came out in a better score, because I think you score them in well-being scores at the beginning of the beginning of a course and at the end, and all of those were improved by at least sort of 2 tiers of sort of progression, or 2 tiers of positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
How difficult was it to set up the CIC, which I presume has been just invaluable in being able to progress?
Yes, it has really helped, just in terms of how people view us as an organisation, the professionalism, but also getting funding, and ensuring that you are that non-profit entity that we are, rather than just saying we're just a surf club. We are just like this non-profit and sort of community interest company, which is, I think that has really, really helped. It was relatively easy to set up, but I think we got our application sent back a couple of times because the wording has to be a certain way, and they have to understand what you're doing and what you're trying to achieve. So it's sometimes really hard to put that into words and write that down. And I think the next step for us would be, would we want to become a charity, which I think is something that we are looking at now.
What's the difference?
I think the difference is the funding you can go for is really different.
Okay.
You can then, you can still employ people, but you can then employ someone as well as a charity.
Okay.
And I just think it opens up more funding, and I think it just really cements who we are as this body that wants to just do good. We're not there for profit and to and to make money. Otherwise, we wouldn't be 8 years old. We would have stopped after year 1.
Yeah, right. And there's a lot of time. You've obviously invested so much time into this.
Yeah, but I mean, I absolutely love it, and the things that it's given me like far outweigh like the time that's gone into it. You know, getting to. I think whenever I'm having a day where it's just like, oh God, everything's a bit too much, you know, I'll go to one of the sessions, and it really reminds me of why this club exists and why it's really important and what it brings to people.
Yeah.
And I think the ground that we've broken as an organisation, as a club, you know, creating that space, working with different communities, running the first sort of UK female-focused surf contest, you know, those things are huge, you know, and we obviously put together a display for the Museum of British Surfing, which was, you know, is now going to be a permanent fixture. But it's taught me so much. It's made me learn so much. It's really made me develop as a person and learn more about sort of the history and the culture behind surfing, not just what I thought it was. And that's been like a really incredible thing. And I just think as a club, we're just going to grow, and we're just going to change and just adapt to sort of what we need.
Do you know where you're kind of trying to take it, or what the next steps are for you as a club?
I think for us, it's going to be working and enabling the girls to progress more and the women to progress more. We're still very much grounded and rooted in fun, and just friendship and community. That is absolutely where we'll always maintain our sort of core. But we've found that actually we've got a really good unit that want to progress. And this isn't through us pushing them, because we're absolutely not that way inclined. But they've seen the competition. They've wanted to compete in it. They've wanted to learn new things. They've wanted to get technical. And so we can see a real like need for progression with that. So I think we're looking at in being able to invest in progressing the girls and women and giving them that chance to compete. Because, you know, I mean, one of our coaches is, you know, it's Karma Worthington. So she's, you know, former junior champ, and she coaches the England juniors. So if anyone's going to be able to coach these girls to be technical, we've got that ability.
I guess that also opens up I know that you say that's not the be all and end all, but I guess that opens up a different level for funding as well, the performance aspect and competition aspect through the federations, through GB surfing potentially.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, it's not an area that I've looked in, because it's not really an area that I've focused on.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, I think it's definitely one that we could look at in sort of the coming time. But that would be our next steps, and looking at how we can, you know, I don't know, tour. Like, can you imagine that? Like, Wahines on tour. That would be so rad.
Torhinis.
Hey!
So also, like, with that being a women's club and girls' club, what about integration from then to surfing with men, obviously? Because when, I think I asked you before, when they go into the lineup on their own, have you seen it now, it's years older, that it's a natural progression, that the women, as they get older, they just go off and do it themselves and surf with whoever? Or is it something you've still got to work towards or with?
No, it's definitely been a natural progression. It's been really great to watch that, and I think, you know, we always, especially with the women, I think the girls' club is slightly different in that it's a social thing, so it's a weekly thing, so it's really different. But I think with the women's, there was always this view that a lot of the women will then start surfing independently and outside of the club, and that has really happened. And, you know, and they don't need us anymore, which is great, because, you know, that's perfect. They're going off and doing it together, and that's always what you want. Yeah. And so there was, you know, this group that would always then go out and surf together, and they've got community, they've got all those things, so they can, and then they've got the courage to surf independently, completely on their own. And I think that's been really lovely to see. And that's just such a natural thing to do. And now they do surf all the time. And we've even got that with some of our girls. There's 4 of them that surf together outside of the club. And you just think that things like that possibly wouldn't have happened had they not had that access point. And I think that's how we see ourselves, as just an access point rather than a long-term thing.
Well, how do you, when you have new members turn up for the first time, or they're just knocking at the door out of curiosity, I was wondering how you set expectations to that person, because something we chat about quite a bit, actually we have done for years in the office at Lost Shore, is and we chat about it on the show as well. Obviously, we know the benefits of for mental health and surfing, but at the same time, it's something that the correlation here frustrates me, because the way some people talk about the benefits of surfing and mental health also implies an element of, well, hold on a minute, I went for one surf, why am I not fixed? Because it doesn't really work like that,
It's like going to counselling.
I was like, yeah, I've been once, why am I not fixed? I've still got all these problems. So how do you kind of manage expectations, or what expectations do you set, if any, to a new person?
We don't set any, is the really short answer to that. Our women's one is all about community and chatting and just enjoying yourself. When we do the therapy sessions, they're slightly different and they're targeted slightly different, and that is more engaging and writing and finding headspace that people can continue to do at home. So we always give them something to take home with them to continue that work. So we're really clear that you won't be fixed at the end of this day. This is an ongoing thing. But with I think our girls one particularly is really interesting, and we've always, when we have new girls start and they become, part of our group, it's been really interesting to watch, because we'll always talk at the beginning of a session, remember what it's like when you started, and you were new, and let's make everyone feel welcome, and then we'll remind each other of each other's names and stuff, and just remember to set the ethos of the club, just so everyone remembers, why we're here. And now I don't have to do that anymore, because we had a girl start earlier this year, and I remember her first session, she was really nervous, and she's 7, so she was below our normal age, so dad was coming in, and she was really shy, and she was really quite upset. And one of our girls who, I'm going to say, I'm sure dad will listen, so Fern, she came up to her and she just went, "Don't worry, I remember what it was like when I first started." And there was a really lovely girl, Neve, my daughter, who took her in and looked after Fern. And now I watched Fern do exactly the same thing to another girl and looked after her the whole session, checked in, make sure she was fine. And that to me was just magic. Yeah. And that is our job done as far as I'm concerned, because the fact that she was welcomed into the club by another group of girls when she was really nervous. She's now seen the power of that, and she's now very much, a core of our club. She's now seen a new girl start and being upset and nervous, and she's remembered it, and she's gone to say, "It's okay, you're going to be fine, and I'm going to look after you." And now that girl comes in, happy as a clam every week, full of life, and so I don't have to do that, because the girls see it and they're learning that behaviour themselves and learning how to treat other people.
I think that's probably one of the most important lessons, because if they can then take that from the club into the ocean, and then they go out and they're, like, as Mitch now calls it, wild surfing, because he only surfs waves pools, wild surfing, and if they're out in the water with people and they are helpful, welcoming people, maybe it'll kill a bit of that.
Change the culture.
Yeah, change the culture.
It is changing the culture, definitely.
Because as I said to you earlier, like Eric said, he's noticed times there's like 50-50 of women to men in the lineup at Saunton now.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think a massive part of that change in this area especially is down to you and your club with what you've been doing.
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm sure it's probably not, but I'm really happy to kind of take, some of that credit and just helping provide that platform and that access point, because it does change the culture, and I think we're really quick to want things too quickly, and to be like, we want this change now, and I think I've definitely been guilty of that, of going, I want to make a change and I want this to be, and why is it not happening, and I think it comes with age, really, probably because I'm old, that actually that takes a long time to change that culture. And now the club's been going for 8 years, but now, like, we're seeing that culture change, we're seeing that shift, and I think that is massive. And then when we look at the girls that are coming through now surfing, I just think it's going to improve, and constantly so.
I would query your number of 400 people though, because we've been in Croydon for a week and there's no bugger here. Every single house is like
it's
in
winter.
Darkness.
It's winter.
There's no one here. I think like every single house I've seen is in darkness. It's like,
I know, it's really quiet actually. That's the weird thing in winter. I mean I love it because it is quiet. It's really nice, but it's also really strange, when you go out and there aren't any lights on.
Is it just people just live here for the summer?
There is quite a bit of that. I think there is quite a lot. which is a bit sad, you know, but there's still a lot of families that are still here and do live here. But I think Croyd is becoming, you know, like Woolwickham's really empty in the winter, and that's a really similar sort of place. But it is a shame because it doesn't enable a community to thrive.
That is a shame. You know, so you've had a lot of people through the doors, as Pete would say. You are 100% responsible for creating a shift in the mentality in surfing, which is absolutely needed and great. If anyone listening that maybe wasn't aware of you or are in the area wants to get involved, how could they do so, and how would they find you?
On all the usual social media channels, so you can just find us at Wave Wahines on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those places, or you can find me, Yvette, on them as well. But I would also highly encourage you to look at women's surf clubs, girls' surf clubs, wherever you are, because there will probably be one. If you're Saunton, you've got Saunton Surf Sisters. If you're up in the northeast, look for Surf Yonder, look for Sally. If you're in Scotland, look for, again, another Sally at Groundswell Community. There's, you know, Gower Women, Channel Women. There's so many amazing women's surf clubs out there. Newquay Women's Surf Club. Oh my God, I could list so many now, which is something that I could not do 8 years ago when we started.
You to write these down, future guests.
You guys are taking over. We're going to have to start our own clubs.
Exactly. So,
you know what? That's something that is, I know, like you said, when you started it, there wasn't a women's surf club.
Yeah.
But I don't actually see it. Is there a men's only surf club?
There's one.
Is there one? No, that's
Dom.
Yeah, but that's a surf sanctuary. That's slightly different again, I'd say. That's the only one I'm aware of, which is Surf Sanctuary. At the time, was there men's only club, or was it all mixed? Or
it was all mixed. I mean, surfing. I mean, this is only 8 years ago, so you know, my answer back then would have been, that's just all the other surf clubs are men's only, because that is how they felt. And so, you know, obviously women weren't excluded; they were welcome, but it was a space that that necessarily, you know, emotionally wasn't possibly welcoming, which is why we were created. But that is a question I've been asked loads, is, are you going to set up a boys club because my son wants to come, or, you know, and I was just like, I wish I had the capacity to do that.
Steve,
we've got a job for you.
But I just didn't. But what we did because we had that with the Syrian community as well when we were doing those sessions, and we did actually have a boys session at the end of it, so the brothers could go and surf at the same time as the sisters, because it was like, well, why can't we surf?
Yeah, right.
So yeah, if anyone wants to start just like a boys surf club or a men's surf club, then I absolutely think there's space for it. And people listening are probably going to go, are you kidding? Because that's just surfing. And it's like, that's really different, because starting to surf is a really different thing than just surfing. And it's like, it gives boys and men a space to learn, and that's really different to just going and trying it and being within the surf community. It gives them a safe space to learn and be vulnerable and be taught in a safe space that is targeted towards them. So I do think there's a space for it, and
I guess the thing here is, it depends how you define a club, because there isn't a standardized thing, is there? And I guess probably prior to maybe you guys setting up and anyone else that's set up their version of what they wanted their club to be, I think the surf clubs were the performance. So Newquay board riders, all that sort of stuff.
They're all aimed at competition, whereas ours is, was vehemently against that. It was all about sport, it's about fun, and the minute the fun goes out of it and it gets too serious, it kind of loses people, or it loses the people that need to be there the most, arguably. I think, I
think like you're saying, there is a sort of, I think you'd have to do it in a certain way. I'm not sure how you do it, but I think there is a need for a men's club, because thinking about it, I took a friend of mine surfing a few years back, and he'd never been. He was in his 30s, never been before, and he said to me afterwards how terrified he was before even going, even though he knew he was coming with people that sort of knew what they were doing, and he said how terrifying it was and everything, and the fact that he nearly died doing it, but that's a different story altogether. But that's down to his fitness, nothing to do with me. And but it was he said how fun it was as well, the same sort of time. But I think it is. I think no matter what what or how you feel, I think it's definitely something that I think someone out there should set up. I think it should be you and Steve, so you get the Wahines and whatever the equivalent male version is, so you've got it all going on there then. But I think like even men in their 20s, 30s, 40s have want to try it and have never, and like we say, it's without, you feel like a fool going to the beach and going, right, I want to rent a board and wetsuit, and it's the first time you've ever done it. If you're not going, like even your first time in, I expect, was it with the army your first time surfing? Was it army
I think
surfing?
I've done it once before, but had no idea what was going on. We rented the equipment in Newquay Town Centre, having never had been to Newquay before, and we had to ask where the beach was.
Brilliant.
We had boards and wetsuits. And
but like you say, there's a we in that. So like if you're on your own, that's
intimidating.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
just and I think the pressure that society puts on, on all genders, and I think that would be different to what society and media put on a woman to what they put on a man, are so different. But those pressures are there, and I do think that if we want to make real societal change, we're seeing that, and we're seeing that culture change within women surfing for sure.
Yeah.
If we want to see more of a societal change with how, with men and with boys and access, I think, there's absolutely the room for that and the need for that to kind of be taught in a more nurturing, different environment.
You know what's going to happen.
I'm not starting one.
You're going to. I know you're going to. I know it'll be 2 years down the line, you're going to go, well, I said I wasn't going to do it. No one else did it, so now I'm doing it.
No.
Well, Yvette, it's been an absolute pleasure.
We haven't asked. We haven't asked the question that we can now ask, because Yvette is now surfing. Last time I spoke to you, you weren't really surfing.
Oh, right, yeah.
So we're going to ask you for your best wave so far that you've caught.
Mm.
Oh my God. Yes. I have got one, and it was, let me think. Oh my God, it was a couple of weeks ago, and it was the middle surf, because we had 1, 2, 3 surfs in a row, and it was at Croyd, and I caught a wave with Neve, my middle one, and we surfed along at the same time together.
Oh,
and
amazing.
that is my best wave. Yeah.
I literally said that last night. Same thing. I had a wave like that with my kids. It was just the best thing ever.
So lovely. And Neve has not been, she's not been surfing. She can surf, but she's like pushing against it a little bit. But now she's really starting to enjoy it. And that was one of those where she came out and she went, I had a really good time, Mum. And I was just like trying to be all cool. Like, it was good. Like inside, I'm just doing this like such a happy dance. I was just so ecstatic that, she's sort of 11. So that teen stuff is going on. I was just like, oh my God, this is the best thing you could have said to me. Kind of like, it was all right.
And you lost?
Worst wipeout so far, because it's got to be good. When you're learning to surf, you get so many of them. It's great.
I was going to say I couldn't name my worst because I find them absolutely hilarious. So I wouldn't say they're a bad thing. I find them great. They're just like, what's my best wipeout?
I'm sort of that way because of, like, Mitch always says to me, we've come to the conclusion that when I go under, I just give up. I don't give up. I just completely relax, and I'm just going where I'm going. And then
that's the same as giving up. That's literally the definition.
I think he thinks I go under and go, well, this is it.
That's what it does.
I've given up. No, I don't think I've got a worse one. I think they're just all best ones. They're all. It's just it's part of it. It's all a crap.
Do you know what that says to me? Also, you haven't had your worst one yet. You'll get to the worst one and you'll go, that wasn't fun.
You'll get a message in a few weeks going, actually,
I've had it.
Yeah. Well, you spoke earlier about how we've got a problem with want, and we want it now. About 20 minutes ago, Steve brought in a plate of cookies.
Mate, both of us stomachs have been going...
knowing that we can't eat them because I've just been chomping away while we're trying to talk. And I've been staring at them for this whole time. They look amazing. So, once again, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for having us round as well.
And also, I'm going to tell you a terrifying story about hamsters in a minute that I found out this morning, which you're going to go, well, I never knew that. And it's,
okay. Well, honestly so grateful to you guys for coming back and wanting me back again on the show. It's been really nice, and it is very, very high tech, very fancy schmancy this time round. So thank you for coming to my house and looking after the dogs as well. They both love you, clearly.
Clearly me more, obviously.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
the dog whisperer. What are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a different story.
So you're going to leave the listeners hanging with two things. Now they want to know about the hamster, and they also want to know about the thing.
The thing that you're going to tell me later. The secret about Saunton.
I saw it this morning. No, I'm not telling the secret about Saunton, but the hamster thing is a lot of people don't realise that when they've had hamsters, a lot of hamsters die in the winter, but the hamsters hibernate even if they're in homes. So when it gets colder, by picking them up, they'll feel cold, and they'll be.
So I might throw
anything.
I might throw
so
her away.
People have been like, people are now finding
burying
out when
her alive.
they're younger, they're like burying their
traumatic.
hamsters that have just gone into hibernation, because it's like literally impossible to tell that they're in hibernation.
Hamster wakes up in the bottom of the bed like,
yeah,
I was in my bed a minute ago.
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's, it's
that.
just people have. Yeah, I told you I was going to say it afterwards, but you made me go into it.
I wish you would hibernate.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll end it on that awful note. So thank you for thanks for coming back.
Hashtag no hamsters were harmed in the recording of this episode.
Also tells us how rubbish his thing about Saunton's going to be as well, if that was the level we got for hamsters.
Right, I'm going.
Well, cheers, Steve. And Yvette as well, you're somewhat involved in that episode. But I tell you what, the cakes, I was buzzing. That was a nice touch. It's kind of like I should be on this episode with you, but Pete hasn't invited me.
Yeah, don't rub it in. I always feel bad enough. I told you, but you know, it's an amazing thing that Yvette set up and has done, and I know Steve helps as well and stuff. But you know, they've got everything there now from. You know, surfing in Croyd at low tide, like you and me were just doing everything we could to avoid altogether. And, you know, like British Surfing Museum, we went there as well, and they've had parts to do with the women's display in there. Just everything. And even to your mate, Jamie Marshall, was mentioned in there as well.
Yeah, he was, Dr. Jamie Marshall. Still weird referring to him as a doctor, but that's what he is. He's a surf therapy, PhD. Good old Jamie.
And, you know, like it's just everything she does. I really like Yvette. I just think she's really nice. And like everything she does is, you know, Syrian Girls Club to dealing with people that have dealt with domestic violence and taking people out at low tide Croyd, which we both still can't get over.
No, definitely. I mean,
but like that thing of the women going back and saying to their husbands, yeah, we surf low tide Croyd. And their husbands are like, what the fuck?
Well, you know, Pete, it's not a competition, is it?
Yeah, and also it is. It's always a competition with you. It is anyway. You should know that.
It is not.
Yeah, it's always a competition with you. And to lead in the first female-focused contest as well. And it's going into its 4th year. It's going to be at Ocean Fest, I think it is again, Gold Coast Ocean Fest, which is in Croyd, Devon. And they're doing the 4th year of the UK's only female-focused surf contest, and they also do the Vicky Worthington Memorial Cup as well, which was a lady down there, which I think was Karma's mum who passed away. And it's, you know, it's all the stuff they do is just I don't know. I can't, like I said to her in this episode about you know, the way women's surfing has changed in Devon, and I think is down to her, and I don't think that's much of an exaggeration. I know there's women's clubs everywhere now down there, like, you know, there's the Westwood Ho surfing one, and there's the Saunton Surf Sisters and stuff like that. But I think when she started, there wasn't many, if any, of them around as well.
It takes someone to pave
the
way, doesn't it? It really does. And
yeah,
you know, some people need I guess an example to. You know, other people may have thought of it long before, but you need an example to, I don't know, see that something's not as hard to achieve, or it's attainable, you know, to give some people that nudge to let them go do it. So
yeah, take that, Yvette. Yeah, it wasn't hard to achieve what you've done, all right? That's what Mitch just said.
Definitely not what I said. Definitely not what I said. But no, it was really
That's
nice.
what I'm
They couldn't have been nicer to us. It was super friendly. They got a lovely home, and I think all the amazing stuff they do aside, potentially we've got the best thumbnail for any episode
Ah,
we've
yeah.
done as well.
Drop that picture. Or if you're on YouTube, drop that picture right
I'll
now
put
as
it
well.
right in
Because
here.
well, the thing is, you and Yvette are the best picture. I didn't know what was going on in the picture. So when I looked back at it, I was like, oh, they look really cool. I look like I'm just like, I've wandered into a photo shoot.
Totally, that's straight up.
But man, also, we have a message today that there is going to be a para road show as well. So it's for parasurfing, and it's going to be para road show supported by Salt Rock, and the dates for that are Sunday the 10th of May, Wednesday 2nd of July at the Wave, Saturday the 12th in Scarborough, Saturday the 19th in Bude, Saturday the 16th of August in Croyd, and Saturday the 27th of September in South Shields. And you can register for that by going to the Parasurfing Roadshow, and that's part with Surfing England, I think, as well. But yeah, there's a whole roadshow to encourage people with disabilities to get into surfing and try surfing.
Sweet, no, that sounds epic. We've been involved in a few of them in the past as well. It's kind of my introduction to a bit of parasurfing. Actually, was at the Wave. It was just really nice to hang out with some of them guys. So good to see that's flying and that's happening again. Hope we get to see them up here as well sometime soon. But that maybe leads us
What's
on.
up? What's up there? What's up there?
There, Europe's.
I'll tell you what's up there.
largest-
If you're in the first week of April, I'll tell you who is going to be up there.
Who's that?
Who? Only me.
Only
me.
goddamn Peter Skeletor. Yeah, so official. Our next edition of the UK Surf Show is going to be a Lost Shore edition. I think everyone knows that we try and do these sort of geographical sort of 2 trips a year, and that gives us 2 lots of 6 months worth of episodes. And I guess it seemed like a no-brainer. So Pete's coming up here very soon. We're going to do 8 days or whatever it is, filming at Lost Shore, staying. Pete's going to get to experience the place. People are going to come and surf with us. We've got a complete different approach to the YouTube content with it, having learned a little bit from Devon. So honestly, we're super stoked about it, and Pete's going straight in on barrels. On his log.
On a longboard.
But by the end of the week...
Mate, right, I had this the other day, so I was thinking, right, if Ben Skinner can do it, right, and, we're similar sort of size, he's a bit bigger than me, we're both surfing gods, and, the only difference between me and him is, like world champion stuff, but that said, we're both similar sort of size, similar sort of age. I'm thinking, how difficult can it be?
If I was to make a comparison of you and Skin Dog would be a protein shake. Skin Dog would be a protein shake, you would be a milkshake. That's the comparison, and that is the soundbite for this episode. And speaking of protein
it's
shakes...
It's funny because it's true.
And speaking of protein shakes, if you want 10% off of Huel, use the discount code Scottish Surfer, and that'll get you 10% off at Huel, because somebody might have a new sponsor.
Oh, right.
I'm having my daily
Plugging
greens.
yourself now.
I'm actually having my daily greens as we speak. Here we go. Check this out. It's,
Nice.
It's very green.
Nice. So anyway, talking of barrels, you've been surfing then, have you? Because yesterday, let me put this out there first, because yesterday I spoke to you, and you had just been on the first barrel session of your life, which is a bit early because who was it? Was it Spence that said
Lee.
it was going to be by... Oh, it was Lee that said 4th of May. So if you've done it already, Lee can get you fuck. Because by what you said earlier, I think you've been barreled today, have you?
Well, so yes, yesterday I decided I'm going to do fucking barrels. Literally decided it like that. Well, no, do you know what? I do turn sessions a lot, right? And our turn session is a really good session. The next sort of wave up from that is manoeuvres, what we call manoeuvres, and that's basically a wallier, steeper version of turns. The reason I don't do manoeuvres is because it's so much punchier and wallier. If your technique's not great, the wave will allow you to get away with more because it's just going to throw you through that turn sort of thing. And on the turn session, if your technique's not decent, good enough, then you'll probably fall off the back and you won't have the power to carry through the turn. So I feel like the turn session, it's more about my technical ability. I have to work it harder, but the manoeuvres will make me feel like I'm better than I am. So I try and not do manoeuvres. The start of barrels is manoeuvres. That's how it starts for a few sets, because it kind of builds you up, I guess. So I guess that's a big step from turns straight to barrels without doing manoeuvres in between. But on turns, on one of the waves, we think it's wave 4, it might even be 5, but I've seen Ethan in it twice. There's a barrel on turns, certainly on the right side, and I've seen him in it twice, so I'm like, I know it's there. And I've been getting in position to try and just hope that the thing throws over me. Probably well out of position, but I'm just there. I'm hand dragging, I'm stalling, and the wave's just not doing what I want it to do. But so I've been like, do you know what? I'm fairly comfortable that I'm kind of doing the right thing to a degree. Why not just go for it? So yeah, I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna go do barrels. And I'll be honest, I spent 5 minutes standing on an IED waiting for it to go bang, right? I wouldn't say
I didn't notice that. You never fucking mentioned it.
I wouldn't say I was nervous during that. I just wanted it to be quick, right?
Yeah.
Yesterday, all day, from the point I decided I was doing it, I was fucking shitting myself. Like, I was genuinely like, I had that butterflies feeling in my stomach. And I've said before, like, I'm far too emotionally retarded to worry about stuff. But I had that feeling, you know, and I was like, oh, fucking hell. And I was kind of
first date feelings.
yeah. But I was, typically laughing it off. Paddle out, and same thing. I'm like, oh, man, this is going to be... Because I go in, obviously, I film a lot of sessions, in water, and I see people up close getting smoked by these lips. Like, these lips straight into drilled into the concrete. And as much as people might say, it's not as bad as you think, when I'm there in person, I'm like, that looks really fucking bad. And I don't want to be part of that. I do not want to be fused to the floor of Lost Shore. So paddle out. I kind of forget the first few sessions, or sets, are manoeuvres. They're not barrels.
Yeah.
So really all I wanted to do was just get comfortable. So I wasn't trying to do turns. I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just getting comfortable on that wall that's in front of you. And it is very different to turns. So yeah, it changes.
What's the size like? Because someone put a comment on there saying about what's the size like. So like if you compare it, because I think the way to do it is like, it's like what we'll do it when we're at Lost Shore, and then we can actually show the size of the waves, and we'll do something like that there. But because I think people go like, compare it to what's the size compared to like the wave size, because that's the only other wave pool around here. A lot of people have surfed, so, or Snowdonia, but that's now gone. So it's like, it's difficult to like judge, and like it's still that difficult thing of people saying like, well, what's the cruiser wave, what's the intermediate, what do I do, what level? So I think but I think for if you're without actually going and seeing it, it is a difficult thing to like picture in your head.
Well, this is a huge tangent. Let's do this when we do the Lost Shore edition, because there's a lot in there. But so I'm like, oh, it's time to go do barrels. But to be honest, I felt really comfortable, and for clarity, my approach, I wasn't going out to try and get barreled. I was just going out to feel comfortable on the wave. So I was just trying to surf in front of it. I wasn't trying to get deep in a pocket, anything like that. I just wanted to surf in front of it, and then if I felt comfortable,
test the session sort of thing.
Basically, I thought I'd be able to either work backwards, or maybe once I'll be accidentally in the right position, and it might just happen, right?
Yeah.
I was also aware that, that's such a sucking wall of a wave. It's just trying to pull the board up the face constantly off you. But I've never experienced that. And I guess for any new listeners, I've never been barreled in the ocean, right? I've had one huge barrel behind me and somebody paddling out in front of me going, "Yes, Mitch!" And I had no idea there was a barrel there. I had no idea. Genuinely true. That was Seba. So I go out, first few, and honestly, there's like, you get a bend on the wave, and it's the weirdest thing. So you've got this wall beside you, and it's like, bloody hell, that's solid. And then this bend happens right in front of you. But because I've got no reference, I've never done it. And even if you've never been in a barrel and you're looking at other people, you don't really see that bend on the wave properly. Suddenly this perspective, it's like a right angle almost. It's obviously not that much, but it looks like that in the moment. You're like, shit, that's a big lump I'm not getting round. The whole session, what I was really chuffed about for myself is that I actually felt really in control of my board. Like, any times the wave wanted to pull it up the face, I was able to bring it down. I'd done it on my my Channel Islands Rocket Wide squash tail, which maybe was too fast a board. I'd quite like to have gone on a slightly bigger but slower board. Obviously, you need to stall, don't you, to try and get in.
But what about that tiki one, the parrot? Would that be any good for
me? Nah, I think that would be too fast for me, and I'd just end up way ahead of the wave.
I haven't surfed it, so I don't know if what's. Like,
yeah, no. For me, that would be too fast. That other people would get barreled off. They're not on that, but for me, because I guess you could get really deep, and you'd have the speed to come out. But no, I think that is too much. That would be too much for me to think about. So I was close on quite a few. So for clarity, I didn't get barreled yesterday. I got really close. I kind of got in one and thought, ooh, that was close. I kind of saw it looking like it was going to throw above me, and it didn't. There is a photo that looks like it did, but I know it didn't, so I wasn't claiming it. I'd have fucking
claimed it.
Well, no, I wanted it to be right for me to make that claim.
I know what you mean, yeah.
So,
yeah.
And everyone's watching as well. Ethan was in with the water housing, and I only had one real eject. In fact, I made every single wave. I only had one where I just dug a rail out of nowhere. And actually, it wasn't that bad, the wipeout. But that's because I think I was already in the whitewater when it happened. Or maybe I went through a little bit of the lip. So I didn't get properly drilled. So anyway...
I've got a wipeout story for you in a minute.
Right, okay. So today... I'm really happy, right? And, everyone's like, you're doing all the right things. You're just too far in front of it. But it's hard to be in position. It's hard because I'm not, like I said, I don't know quite what I'm looking for.
Do you think that now you've done the session and getting wiped out on it is not as bad as you thought it was going to be, that you'll have more confidence to stall back even further now?
No, because I've not been drilled by it. No, because I've not been drilled by it. Like, I
thought you said you had one that threw.
No, I had one wipeout, but it wasn't like, I guess I wasn't in like the spot where it's barreling and I'm getting battered by a heavy lip.
I think you just do what you said to Andy Haddon, just get wiped out in there and just do it. And at least if you purposely do it, you're going to know what it feels like.
Oh, fuck
and that should.
No, because if I don't like it,
away.
If I don't like it, I'm not going to go. If I get my face fused into the floor, I'm not paddling back out to the next one, am I? So it was really fun, right? But I came out really happy, and I kind of learnt loads. But ultimately, the most important thing was that I came out. Well, there's two things. I came out confident, knowing I can go into that session again, and I can work on it a little bit more. But two, it felt like what I've now done for any gamers. I feel like I've just prestiged and leveled up in Call of Duty, because what I've now done is unlocked a session that I can jump in on during the day. So I can jump in on 1 o'clock barrels. So this was last night. This happened on a staff session.
What did you just say then? I ain't got a clue what you just talked about.
Well, the people that have games know what that means, so I'm not even going to explain it. Right? You look like you'd be a gamer anyway, and you'd be up drinking Red Bull till 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mate, my body's a temple.
Yeah. So
Temple of Doom.
I go back to work today, and I'm like, do you know what? I want to do fucking barrels. So I deploy a staff voucher and I book into 1 o'clock barrels. And yeah, no nerves, just went out. And actually the first few manoeuvres sets, I actually tried to surf them, which was really nice. And it is such a wallier wave. And I still stand by my point about that. It is forgiving because it's punchy and bigger, and it's more about technical ability on turns. But I really liked it, and I think manoeuvres might become my go-to for doing turns. But then barrels come in. There's a few dudes in the water. I think there was like 7 of us in the end. Some really cool guys in there, and I got 2 barrels. They weren't deep. There was guys in filming it, so I'm looking forward to getting hold of that footage, but they were filming for a project, nothing to do with Lost Shore, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. But so the first one So what I realised last night when I was surfing, what I was doing while I was putting my hand in the water to stall, to drag and create some resistance, I wasn't really putting my hand in to drag. I was sort of...
You were just tickling it.
I was just tickling it. I was teasing it. I was teasing it and
Yeah.
letting it know I was there, basically. It was just a bit of playful fun between me and the wave. And but today I was like, right, okay. I'd been given some decent advice from Lee, from Gav, from Ben Larg, and I was quite confident, right? So first thing was the hand drag, big difference. But two, it's weird. The good surfers, they will do like some massive hack and then they'll set up for the turn. But when you do something before you're setting up, you then need to be super quick, and these guys obviously are.
Yeah.
Right. So I was kind of doing these sort of fades, I guess, and little turns, and then try to set my line. But it feels like you're set so fucking early that you're just wasting all this wave. But that's what I'm told to do. Just set as early as you can. Don't try and surf. Just get set. Set your line, and then when you see that bend in the lip, you just basically need to start pointing your board 45 degrees. The reference point is actually Canteen, the restaurant. But the board's been the wave is trying to pull your board up the wave off you and turn the nose the other way. Yeah. So you just try to put all your weight and keep the nose facing down 45. So I was really happy I was doing that really well. And then I got my hand in to do like a decent drag. I'm trying not to be too far ahead of the wave, but I guess what's frustrating is because you're set so early, if you get it wrong, it's more frustrating because you're like, I've had all this time and I'm not there. So it took me probably half of the session. I got one. I literally was, I could see it chandelier over me. And then I was like, I felt like the board was getting pulled up the wave. So I'd done like the smallest ever pump just to try and get back down into the trough of the wave. And it just catapulted me out so fast. I was way ahead of it. So I was like, right, okay, that's a start. Next time, bigger hand drag. So, a few more waves go through.
At least that happened first. So, right, if I do that, that just shoots me out in front then. You've taken that first bit. Yeah.
Yeah. But then also when you do come out, if you don't get barreled, like actually that wave, when it's barreling, that face is so much fun to try and do turns on. It's class. So anyway, a few more waves go by. I'm aware it's getting to the end of the set and I'm like, just fucking commit. Because committing's the hard bit. But then being set and not committing's the stupid thing to do, isn't it? Because you're just going to get pummeled.
Yeah.
So
a
few waves go by, same thing, right? So I'm doing a hand drag and that happens. It comes right over. Again, I'm not deep, right? So it's not going to blow anyone away or anything like that. But I'm definitely in there. And there's a massive difference between knowing you're in and not. And I saw it straight away because it's just a wall beside you. It's an absolute wall, and like the thing's coming over. So, and then I managed to come out the wave, and I came out right, and I literally, honestly, I claimed it, right?
I can imagine.
I claimed it.
I've seen you claim a fucking knee-high fucking slop. So I can imagine the claim that came. I'm surprised I didn't hear the claim from here.
So I done a claim, but then I changed my claim mid-claim. So I came out the wave, right? I came out of this barrel, and like I said, there's these two guys from Edinburgh Napier Uni who are filming a documentary at Lost Shore. They were on the pier filming. I got a lot of mates on the pier, all the guys I work with and whatever else. And I literally went, that's a 10! That's a 10! And I eye contact them all. I've got my hands up going, that's a 10! And then immediately while I'm saying 10, I was like, well, I wasn't that deep. So I went, it's a 5! It's a 5! And I just closed one hand off. It's a 5! So, honestly, I'm absolutely buzzing. And I know I'm going to go back in and I'm going to get pummeled and I won't even get close. But it's just nice to know that it's there and it's achievable, And it's not as brutal as you think. And ultimately, I'm still very much of the opinion, unless it's 4 or 5 times overhead chopu, getting barreled, it's just going left and just going right. It's obviously got more technical ability than going left and right, but it's the same thing.
You see, I know you say that, like you say that, but if you look at some of those barrels where like that one where Slater goes into it and he loses his board and he grabs his board back and comes back onto it.
Yeah, but he scored nothing from it because it was an incomplete.
Yeah, I know.
But I want to say the reason I say that is because when I watch like CT surfing, like it's when somebody's on a huge barrel, right, and it's a massive weighty thing. It's impressive. Like I'm not saying it's not, but I want to see them come out and then do some power surfing. That to me is impressive. Like,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
so the barrel really becomes about the wave somebody's surfing in. Not really. Like, these are pro
See-
surfers. Of course, they're going to get.
Right, see, the
barreled.
thing is, you say that watching that, I don't give a fuck about watching that.
Nah, you don't.
But
No.
I'd much prefer to watch someone going left or right on a longboard and just cruising up and down and or as I said, said about Skinner earlier, the way you watch him and the way he rides a longboard, and it just the stuff he does, and just stand for the size of the guy, just standing on the front of a nose in a wave when it's locked in. And mate, saying that, so I was down in Bude at the weekend and I had 2 surfs on. I can't remember when it was, the Friday or the Saturday, and one in the morning, one in the evening. And I saw Paz, who left a nice comment of, saying that he had the unfortunateness of seeing me down there.
Yeah.
Well, to Paz, the
Paz.
guy who jumped off his board and pulled me off my board and hugged me because he was so excited to see me. Paz, yeah. So
Like an
that's
excitable
you sorted,
dog.
Paz. Yeah, he was. Yeah, so that's for you, Paz. Yeah, and I nearly swore at him in Spanish then, but that would be inappropriate. And
It'd be very
yeah,
you. Though.
I had some. So I went out in Bude in the morning on Crooklets Beach, the main beach, and mate, I wiped out. So it was fucking big as well, and I wiped out so hard that my body got slapped. So, have you surfed Bude before?
No, I don't think so.
No. So if you surf Bude, sometimes it breaks quite close in, it's quite shallow of where it breaks. Sometimes I find, and it broke and it slammed me into the seabed floor so hard that the air left my body and it's just and you know when you get winded and it's just fuck it like that and the air goes I've never had that underwater before when the air leaves your body, but because what you do when the air leaves your body, you're automatic. It's to inhale, isn't it? You go like that, and I just that was a point of giving up where I didn't want to give up. I shat myself. I was proper choking and
You've got something to live for,
But-
now, Pete.
Mate, after that, so I paddled around a lot, and it was a hell of a paddle as well. It's really heavy, and I caught a wave, and mate, I caught this wave, and it fucking I what I was just saying about when Skinner stands on the front of the board and you see it locked in. I caught this wave, and I got onto the wave, and I turned, and I was going down the face of the wave, moved around a little bit, got my foot stretched right out, so I'm in kung fu pose, bent over my knee in front of my foot right out in front of me on the edge of the nose, and I felt the board lock into the wave, and it felt so stable that I could have walked around really easy on the board.
Nice.
For that the whole time it was in there, and that wave felt like it was going on for a minute or two or something like that. Got the GoPro footage back and just threw my board away and jumped in the water and just let myself give up.
How long was it on the GoPro?
It's the most degrading thing I've ever seen in my life
How
of me. I
long
was just
was it on the GoPro?
mate, this wave that I felt like I was locked in and moving round and doing all this, and my foot was right out. My foot moved about half an inch in front of me, and I slightly crouched down, and the wave was probably about 19 seconds in total or
that's a
something like
long
that.
wave,
It was
though,
still pretty
all
long.
the same.
It was still a pretty long wave, but that's I think that's including the pop up and everything as well. So
that counts.
it's. But but anyway, so talking about GoPro, and I got some of the old footage off my GoPro from stuff from even when I think it started around Porthcawl, because remember I had a problem and I couldn't get the footage off and it was corrupt. Anyway, my phone blew up, changed my phone, tried to download the GoPro thing, wouldn't work, so I reinstalled everything. And the old videos were still on there, but they were just showing us blank. But they were saying they had time limits on there. So I downloaded it all to my phone. They've bloody played. And there's one on there, which is, I think it was either a Westward Ho wave or it was one in Porthcawl or something like that. But I start on the wave and I start going left, and then the wave breaks, and I do this massive carve back round and go right, and then start going right down. And I was it felt really good, but I forgot all about it. And then there's some of the other ones I just stuck them all together and chucked them on my Instagram, because I was nobody wants to see my shit longboarding on the
do
surf
mate.
show
Get
page.
them on the show, mate. Instagram, get them on there.
I'd send you. You just overlay it over this, but it was just honestly, the the thing of the GoPro and seeing yourself, you know, like that's what you were
yeah.
making me think of it when you go, oh, there's people taking photos and videos, and
it's
you
gonna be
get
so
the photo back,
disappointing.
and it'll be like a $500,000 over your face
Oh,
or something
yeah.
like that. You're just going to be like, ah, shit.
Do you know what as well? I remember I said, you know, my son passed his driving test and he kept finding,
Yeah.
with no minors, 0 minors, and he kept finding new ways to bring up that he'd got no minors. I realised today where he got it from, because you can imagine I was literally telling everyone. And we had we call it like a town hall meeting for the Lost Shore team.
Yeah.
And it's basically an opportunity for every department to update on what the departments have been up to and all this sort of stuff. It's really cool. It's just a way of the company being able to be transparent with everything, which I really like.
Yeah.
And I was asked to go up and talk. So my boss asked me to talk on our part, and I came. My opening line is genuinely true as well. My opening line was, Emma has asked me to do some market research within the team, and she was wondering if anyone got their first barrels today. No one. I guess it was just me, but I didn't want to bring it up for myself. That's how I introduced the meeting. But anyway,
Amazing.
so thank you for listening. Thank you to Yvette, and thank you to what?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, no, I was just going to say we've waffled on for about 30 minutes now, so we probably should wrap this up. And don't forget, you know, sponsors of the show who made the Devon edition possible was Tiki, and if you want 10% off anything at Tiki,
use the discount code UK Surf Pod.
And then we've got Adrenaline Athlete as well.
Yeah, if you want to get 60% off Adrenaline Athlete Training Program, that's the annual membership, use the discount code, all uppercase, UK Surf Show at checkout, and that will work for both the home and gym edition.
Mr. Alan Bissicker's reset me up on his program and sent me some stuff, so that's good. So I told him, because the Scottish guy's just a civilian who's getting fat now, so it's all about me who's going to be the ultimate surfing champion. Surface as well, UK Surf Show 24, and that would get you 10% off Surface, and Cookville Clothing, UK Surf Show 10, that would get you 10% off at Cookville Clothing. Also, I forgot to mention that Yvette has a crowdfunder for more surf, more waves, and more aloha, and that is a crowdfunder on the Wave Wahines. Go over there and you'll find it well worth doing.
And if you want to get 10% off at Huel, I believe it's on orders over 60 quid, use the discount code Scottish Surfer. Thank me later for your daily greens.
Yeah, just before I forget as well, that there is a crowdfunder. If you just Google search more surf, more waves, more aloha, and it will come up. It's on the Wave Wahines crowdfunder, and they want to get a fully stocked trailer, I think it is, for girls and young women for their ocean connection through play and community. So it's well worth going to check out, and well worth supporting as well. But thanks again to Yvette and Steve and the dogs and the hamsters, which get a mention in that episode. And yeah, brilliant everything you do. And we've waffled on long enough, and that's it.
Yeah, and final decider, screw the rip, paddle it out the middle, know you're able to. Bye.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that bit. Even Steve agreed with me that you're wrong.
I'm going to stop pressing record now, so you can't add
right,
anything.
Lost Shore. We're going to Lost Shore next. That's it, Lost Shore. See you later. See you next time, and we'll be back.